Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is, I hope it's a good one. Today I'm bringing you a special presentation of the Do You Like Scary Movies podcast, featuring Terrifier writer and director Damien Leone, as well as Art the Clown himself, David Howard Thornton. Terrifier 2 has been out for a bit more than a week now as of the time this will be published here on YouTube. It's an excellent movie, and you really need to see it while it's still in theaters. It's even been making the newspapers because people have been fainting or vomiting during screenings. And that sort of thing just doesn't seem to happen all that often anymore, so I think this is an important movie for the horror genre, and Art the Clown is well on his way to becoming a truly iconic horror character. Anyway, a few weeks before Terrifier 2 came out, while at the Colorado Festival of Horror, my co-host Brian and I of the Do You Like Scary Movies podcast had the opportunity to sit down for a discussion with David and Damien before a live audience. I now present that podcast for you here on YouTube. It was recorded before Terrifier 2 came out, so of course it's completely spoiler-free. I also think we might have accidentally been the first to break the news of David Howard Thornton's next upcoming picture, but whether that's the case or not, it was a great interview and I think you're all really going to like it. And if you do, you can check out my link down in the What's It, where you can find everything you need to know to listen to all of our podcast episodes. But without further ado, let's get to the interview.
Welcome to Do You Like Scary Movies, where we examine all things horrific. Each episode features interviews with those involved in all aspects of horror and the bizarre. Do you like creepy movies, scary books, or horror music? Join us for a look into all of the things that go bump in the night and bring a chill to your spine. Prepare to be scared.
So we're starting this wonderful show here.
A little differently than what we usually do.
Live from the Colorado Festival of Horror. We'll introduce ourselves like we normally do, just to say who we are, what we are, why we're doing this. I am your co-host, Brian. I am with the Rocky Mountain Paranormal Research Society, also co-host of this, and I have a wonderful other podcast called They Did It. It is a conspiracy podcast because now is the time for conspiracies, and I will roll it over to Bob, who will talk about his wonderful YouTube channel and one other event.
So I am Bob, as Brian said. I have a YouTube channel called Phobophile. If you like what we do here, I do sort of the same thing, except without the special guests. But we also have a special announcement for those of you living in or traveling to Colorado over the next few months. We're doing a series of haunted dinners at the Kokopelli Beer Company in Westminster, Colorado. The first one is on September 20th, and tickets for those are available at hauntedevents.wellattended.com.
And that being said, and for some reason I can hear me on the microphone at this point, we have two guests, and I usually say this, but this time I mean it. If you don't know who they are, I am completely ashamed of you. And when I said this was coming to you live, I'm not going to say this very often because I'm going to tell you to shut up, but audience, give me some noise.
It's time!
Okay, that's a good thing. So,
no boobs.
Exactly. That being said, one of you please introduce yourselves, because you need no introduction, but honestly, just so they know who you are.
Sure. Damien Leone, writer-director of Terrifier 1 and 2.
I'm David Howard Thorton. I play Art the Clown in Terrifier 1 and 2.
That was just creepy the way it sounded right there. I'm sold. So
We told y'all we had a good guest.
exactly.
Or
So
a pair of guests in this case.
so we are here at the
Pair of
Colorado.
breasts?
Pair of guests.
Oh.
There are some good pairs of breasts here too.
And it's funny because we're talking about ghosts, so it could be boobies.
Exactly. So since we are at
weak
the,
folks.
since we are here at the Colorado Festival of Horror, how have you guys been enjoying the show so far?
Been great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely fans.
Yeah.
Lovely attendance. Amazing.
I mean, it's just the second year, so we're looking to doing this more and more and more. And being able to have you guys here as guests is just absolutely an honor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
And especially, and this goes out to all the crowd here too, you two are probably the nicest of the guests that I've met. You're just real people.
Oh, wow.
You all be.
Yeah.
We tried.
Until he puts on a clown suit and kills people. But
As you do.
so, that happens too. Tell us about your exploits of. Let's start with Terrifier 1. How did that come to be?
Oh boy. Well, I created Art the Clown a long time ago, back in 2005, for my first short film called The Ninth Circle. And long story short, whenever somebody would see that clown, he was just a little character in that short. They said, "Oh, your other creatures, whatever's going on, very cool, but that clown is sick. Like, you really have something there. He's striking. We need to see more." And then I made another short film called Terrifier, which showcased solely on Art the Clown, and I turned him into a slasher. And then when people saw that, they said, "You have to turn that into a feature." And that was the goal. It was just every time we made something, the fan base grew a little bigger. And the goal was always to make Terrifier, but it was a long road. Nobody really believed in clowns. This was pre-It remake. Nobody wanted to take a chance on a killer clown movie because there was never a successful Hollywood killer clown movie. They would literally tell me clowns can't sell a movie.
Really?
Yeah, and sure enough, It comes out and it's the highest grossing horror movie of all time. But eventually, my producer Phil Falcone took a chance on me. He was the only person to give me the money to make Terrifier, and then we jumped in to make it.
I will say, on the social media side, I have never seen a more rabid group of people. When that film came out, people were just insane. And they still are.
Yeah.
That actually leads to one of my questions. What do you think is the mojo that your films and Art the Clown have tapped into that has made it such a force in the horror world?
I think there's a few things. I mean, of course, most people love clowns. A lot of people are terrified of clowns. But I think Art in particular, I think he draws a lot from the characters that we all grew up loving, especially that I grew up loving. He's got a little bit of every character in him, and I think one of the most amazing things about him is he sort of draws from Freddy's sort of personality. And I think when people see that, it makes them gravitate toward him. And he's charismatic, he's visually striking, but the black sense of humor, the dark humor, really seems to work. And there's something very human about Art that separates him. He has such a human personality, and he does these sort of mundane things as this killer, whereas you're like, oh my god, there's a thought process. There's things that I do, like he takes a shit.
Exactly.
Where other characters don't.
Now, one thing I will say about that is, you're talking about being a character that way. This is one of the few horror characters, and we're comparing to Pennywise here, that when you turn around, and I'm going to blame it completely on David, the miming ability, I just burst into laughter every time you show up on screen. That smile, it's just one quick little look and a honk, and it goes from horror to comedy straight back to I'm terrified.
That sounds like every date I have, too.
Yeah, exactly.
I never knew you'd met my ex. Wait, this is going out for the public.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Uh-oh.
Forget I said that.
Yeah, he's just such a fun little bastard to play. So I'm just like, it's very freeing to play this character too. It's just like I even have fun here at the conventions, just messing around with people. Like today at the photo op, just killing time. I was just playing around and stuff like that.
Well, I did notice that, and kudos, you did not break character.
Nope.
That was beautiful, because a lot of people, when they're doing their photo ops, it's like, okay, for that 30 seconds while I'm on camera, I'm going to be that character. But no, you were that character from the time you got on. Well, you weren't even on the elevator yet. You were up on the 7th floor, honking at everybody, letting them know you were coming down. And it was such a build-up.
That's cool.
It's like you know what they're looking for. You know how to work the fans, and that's an amazing thing.
Well, I want to give them the experience. That's the thing. You know, they're willing to come in and support us, and pay for a photo op or something. I don't want it to be your standard photo op or anything like that. I want them to actually have the real experience. I mean, I'm in the full makeup and everything like that.
Absolutely.
It would be so jarring if I just started talking to somebody wearing that. It's jarring for me when I meet a cosplayer and they're doing the stuff and they're like, oh, thanks, man, I'm glad to meet you and all that. I'm like, whoa, it's weird. It's weird to hear a voice come out of that body.
That's true. So
Yeah, I don't even for some behind the scenes stuff. There's a lot. He's like this all the time in the makeup until we start rolling. So there's so much footage, when we're setting up shots and things, and they're in the dressing room or whatever, and the cast is just hanging out. He's goofing around. Everybody's filming him, and there's so much goofy footage of Art the Clown doing ridiculous and saying ridiculous things. And we have this footage, but I don't like releasing it because it could easily ruin the mystique and everything that's creepy about the character. I mean, some things I let out because it's it is what it is. But if you go too far, and if he's just hanging out and
well, and that's kind of what I was
southern accent.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what the hell are you talking about?
Well, that's what I was alluding to earlier. It's the fact that there's no spoken word and a wonderful mime at the point. Not most mimes I don't like, but the smile, the reactions, the horror.
Well, here's the reason you probably like him then, because he's not a mime.
Well, that's true too.
That's the thing I always like to clarify with people, because I get that question.
It's very
a lot.
mime-ish.
Yeah, it is mime-ish, but he's a silent clown.
That's true.
He's a clown, but he does a bit of mime as part of his
It's kind of like Emma Kelly,
Well, that is a good question, and we do have the creator. So, why doesn't Art talk?
Because I don't have to write any dialogue.
I don't have to memorize it.
I knew that was going to be the answer. I really did.
It is. The truth is that I listen. I love Freddy as much as all the others, but there was a part of me that always gravitated a little more toward the silent killers, just because I found them creepier. Because you can't reason with them. You take away that level of civility when you can't rationalize. It's more animal if they don't speak. So it was just, and plus Pennywise speaks, and he's got some great one-liners and great dialogue, and I didn't want to have to compete with that, and I also didn't want to have to do the same thing. So I tried to be as opposite as Tim Curry's Pennywise at the time when I was designing art. Because there's no point in messing around in his world. He's still arguably the king of killer clowns. I mean,
no,
you're not beating Tim Curry in that area. It's not happening.
I don't say this lightly. You have.
Oh,
I consider myself the Duke of Death.
Okay. I think that you have created a character that is going to become a horror standard.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you.
And
amazing compliment.
Hopefully, and that way we get to see you guys more often too.
Yeah.
Because that's important. So, any fun stories about the making of the first one?
Oh, there's so many funny stories.
God.
Something that you haven't repeated time after time after time.
That I don't know. the most filming is very, very grueling. And the most fun is just when you're around fun people and they make you laugh in between takes. But for the most part, it's slow, boring, technical, tedious. But one scene I remember in particular where I was laughing so hard is in Terrifier 1. when it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's the scene where he's got to ride the little bicycle. And I just sat back, camera was rolling, and I just let him ride that thing because he is so much bigger than that, especially with his clown shoes. And he's just crashing. I mean, when he crashes, it's real, and I just put it in the movie. I mean, he had such a hard time. And there's times where in post, you know, when I'm editing, I'll take out any noises he's making, or sometimes he's laughing, sometimes he's even singing, and he was just riding around in circles singing a Queen bicycle race while he was filming that scene.
I was doing like the pervert's voice. Just, I was like, I want to ride my bicycle.
Yeah, so
Victoria, get your fat ass over here. I'm gonna kill you now.
yeah, so that was fun. I forgot we were filming, and we were all going delirious and hysterical laughing. So that was great.
Now, I was listening to a previous podcast that you did, and you were discussing how the new film is, what's the runtime?
2 hours and 18 minutes.
Exactly.
Including credits.
Gore
So it's like
with the wind.
it's like 2:15.
It could be 4 hours, and we would still all watch it.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons that you were giving was this extremely long, more so killing than the last one. Can you give me a little information? I don't need everything because we don't want to spoil it. But what can you say?
Yeah, I could tell you something because I've said this already. Well, obviously, fans loved the hacksaw scene in the first one.
Absolutely.
So that's all we hear is Art the Clown and the hacksaw scene. So now the expectations are so high, and it's how the hell do we top that scene? I don't know if we have. I mean, we tried. We certainly tried. It played once so far in the UK, and people are already talking about that scene. So I know you know it when you see it, whether it did or didn't top it. But I don't know what. Wait, hang on. I just had a brain fart. I'm sorry.
Well,
okay. I'm sorry. That's what I wanted to say. All right. So I can't spoil too much, but I was looking through a book of Jack the Ripper, and there were real photos of his victims.
Right.
And there's one in particular where this poor woman is just, her body's on a bed, and you can't even tell it's like a human being anymore.
Right.
It's so horribly mutilated. So I said, if we take that and then we sort of reverse engineer it and show how that person ended up in that state, that might be a good scene to tackle. So that's one of the big kill scenes.
So is this the scene that I believe David was describing on another podcast that drags out for like
It does.
Yeah,
Maybe
4
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I am all for.
Yeah, it's relentless.
Yeah.
It's we try to do, whereas the original the slashers we grew up loving, it's usually a lot of suspense leading up to the kill, and then it's a knife coming down. It's a one shot, and then you're one and done. It's over,
Exactly.
right? So with us, I like to build as much foreplay, and then once we get to the kill,
Gore play.
gore play.
I like that.
And once we get to the kill, don't just have it be a one and done shot. I mean, just show. Art is just relentless with the kill, and they just go on and on and on. And this one we kind of just brought to another level. It's
so
pretty
looking forward to
unprecedented,
this.
I must say.
Well, hold on. I have to do this for my own need. So for those of us that were the crowdfunder types, when's the DVD?
Did you
coming?
crowdfund?
Yes, I did.
Thank you so
you.
much,
Thank you.
buddy. That's
I
amazing.
wouldn't have if I knew about one, but I found out too late.
Wow.
But I'm waiting for my signed DVD in the mail already.
You're
So-
in luck. They're gonna do a huge special edition of it too. So.
When are they going to do that? That's my
It might
question.
be I think they're aiming for the holidays.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Because I need to see it. We collectively need to see it.
And for everybody else, in terms of wide release, what sort of release date are we looking for?
So it's actually going into theaters October 6th.
October 6th.
7th and 8th, over approximately 700 theaters across the country. So it's going to be pretty much everywhere, at least somewhere in driving distance for you to check it out. 700 theaters is actually a lot for
Wow,
a
that's
small
big.
movie like this, and it's so, and it's like, I mean, unprecedented. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and it's not rated, and it's playing in Regals, AMC's, and things like that.
You
so this
went
is like
without a rating?
Oh yeah. No. This is the movie.
Congratulations.
This is like seeing Dawn of the Dead in '79 or
Oh,
whatever.
that's
This is like,
brilliant.
yeah.
So,
I'm not comparing this movie to Dawn. I have the audacity. I would never do that. But
It's way more brutal than Dawn of the Dead.
We would have probably gotten an NC-17 rating.
Yeah,
well, that's
it would
why
never
it was
get an
out
R.
there.
It would never get an R rating.
No.
And big kudos to Bloody Disgusting and Cinedigm, the company that picked it up, because it's a big risk for them not to. They wanted to have it. You know, that was one of the talks we had of sending it to the MPAA and everything. And we just told them, like, this is not what the fans are looking for.
So
That's
what you
like-
should do, just
That is the right decision.
Yeah, I know. We
just
knew
on
it
a
was,
whim,
yeah.
after you've done the theatrical release, submit it to the MPAA and see what
Right, we
they've done
should.
with it.
We really should. Yeah.
When they say you should have cut all these scenes out, you can put that as an extra list on the back of the DVD.
yeah.
So you say, this is what they told us to cut out, and you get to see it.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. Yeah.
So I think that would be fun. Well, let's change our paths a little bit and go into your history.
Okay.
I have learned about all of your wonderful voices that you do. Obviously, you were just doing some. Your, what was it, 110 Minutes is one of my favorite videos that I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
But what history do you have as far as voice acting?
I've done several video games and a few animated series, but usually for like little kids, which is really funny. It's like there was like the one main series I did was Super Wings that was on the Sprout Network a few years ago, and I was their animal guy. Anytime they had an animal in an episode, they'd like bring me in, like, David, can you do a cow? Okay, do that. Go. We have a bunch of ghosts. Just do that. Like one time, like, we have a springbok, and I'm like, what the fuck is this springbok? I had to look at it's like this antelope or something like that that's in Africa, and
Right.
I'm like,
What noise does it make?
I was, I can't even remember what I did for it. I was just like, because they didn't have like sound files, because that's what I would do. I'd look up sound
Right.
files of what these animals sound like. I have no idea what a springbok sounds like. We were just
What
like,
do you think it sounds like? Give us something.
I did it like a ostrich too, and that was a fun one because like ostriches, if you actually hear a real ostrich, they sound horrific.
Oh, they are terrifying.
And it's like I can't do that for a kids show because that's gonna scare kids. So I just made
do
them
it anyway.
I can't. Oh god, because it made this. These weird sounds. It's just like God, give me an exorcist. So I just made him into a giant chicken the whole entire time. Just like
That works.
So I had so much fun with that. So yeah, but I played a few humans on humans.
Humans.
They eat humus.
Now, something tells me that you have an obsession with the Joker.
Oh, just a little bit. He put a smile on my face, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
And I'm
best
sitting
joke
next to him while he's doing this. It's fucking terrifying.
I got the shirt too.
Well, I didn't, honestly, I didn't even notice the T-shirt.
Yeah, it's this great shirt the Tear Threads made that's a play on the Killing Joke.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It just made instead of the ha ha ha's, it's all honk honk honk. I love it.
So how does it feel to be the image that's on everything?
Weird.
I mean, honestly, you're wearing a T-shirt of yourself.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I love it sometimes when I'm out in public and I'm wearing the shirts and someone just randomly on the street in New York like, oh dude, I love that movie. I'm like, thank you. They're like, what? I'm like, that's me. And they're like, no.
That's what all you guys sound like, by the way.
Or I sound like Michelangelo. Yeah. It's better than, yeah, what the fuck is that you're wearing on your shirt, man? Holy crap, that's amazing, that movie day. When you split that girl down by the cooch, oh my god, I swear, that made me feel things, Dan. I felt things. I think I grew a uterus all of a sudden, man. Is that what you were wanting? Okay.
That's what he was aiming for right there. I can't follow that up, seriously.
Yeah, can we just shut up and he can just do that for the rest of the show?
This is why Damien usually just says, okay, we're rolling. just to shut me up on set.
When we're not.
Yeah.
It's like mute him and roll him out. He'll be fine.
Yeah. Because I do that. I do that all the time. It's probably the weirdest thing for my co-stars because, like, 1 second I'm just over here just doing Bugs Bunny and they're like, rolling, and I'm like, Angry eyes.
So how you doing there, Doc?
So, I know you've done some Broadway work. What have you done?
Well, not necessarily on Broadway,
Okay,
but I was
off-Broadway work.
Off Broadway. It was like I toured for 5 years with the Broadway tour of How the Grinch Stole Christmas the musical. I was actually here in Denver back in 2014 playing at the Buell Center.
Really?
Yeah, I was this understudy for Stephen Carl, who was our Grinch, but I also played Grandpa Who.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so yeah, that was fun.
I'm upset I missed that now.
Yeah.
That would have been
I
amazing.
see a lot of stuff over there, but I missed that one.
It was a good one. We were
And
there
I-
for 2 weeks, so you missed out.
Yeah, I hate myself now.
Yeah, had Christmas here in Denver. It was awesome.
You'll secretly come through and do that again someday.
Maybe, who knows? Who knows?
Come out in clown makeup.
It'll be fun to do Grinch again. So it's like,
That being
We could
said,
get an Art the Clown live show, maybe an Art the Clown opera.
oh my
Oh,
god, Pagliacci.
Terrifier
2 hours
the
of
musical.
absolute silence.
Yeah. I just sit on a stage in a chair and I'm just like,
But yeah, that's a good point. Terrifier the musical. Yeah,
we'll do the whole Andy Kaufman thing with the record player and Mighty Mouse.
Mighty Mouse. Oh, that was
Here
brilliant.
I come to save the day.
You remember that one too, huh? Mm-hmm. They don't.
I grew up on the classics. So, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, do you have any other films under your belt?
I do. There's another film I'm working on with a lot of the Terrifier 2 team. The Fuzz and Lens guys have written and directed this one. It's called Stream, and it's coming out next year.
I
And
may be a funder on that one too.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah. Thank you. We have an amazing cast for this movie. It is like the Expendables version of a horror film with the cast in this thing. It's just like...
and who is in it?
Say it now.
Yeah, it's online.
Yeah,
yeah, it's like everybody.
Exactly.
Jeffrey Combs, Tony Todd, Felissa Rose is in it.
Dee Wallace.
Dee Wallace. Yeah.
Dave Sheridan, me, Daniel Harris.
Right, yeah.
God, so many
Yeah,
other.
Rose, yeah.
Daniel Roebuck, Terry Alexander.
What's
There's
the,
some
what's
other
the-
people I can't announce yet. Oh, Damon Maffei's in it. If you
Wow.
you know his work, so he's.
What's the synopsis?
It's about this family that decides to go on like a vacation to try to get close again and all that kind of fun stuff, and they get locked in this hotel with these 4 killers that are part of basically a game show where they are hunting everybody down in this hotel. So I played one of the killers.
That would make me watch game shows.
Yeah, it would. It'd be so much better than Survivor.
I was going to say, but it's not 31, right?
No.
Because there were clowns in that too.
Oh,
so-
I know. Good old Richard Brake. In that.
Oh,
we
there
love
was-
Richard.
There was
He's
some
my
fun stuff
birthday
in there.
buddy. Oh yeah, but that's one of the ones I'm working on. I got another one they're going to be officially announcing, I think, in a few weeks.
Can you drop hints?
I can
or
give a hint. It's a Christmas horror story based on a very popular Christmas story here in America that might make your heart grow 3 sizes.
How delightfully cryptic.
Yes. Yes. So I'm pretty mean in that one. So yeah. So that's it's pure camp, pure fun. It was like it's kind of in the style of like Krampus and all that kind of stuff. So we know exactly what we are. We're having fun with it. So
Awesome. I'll have to see that too.
Yeah.
And even Terrifier, as over the top, brutal horror as it is, knows what it is. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important, that it's not trying to be something it isn't. It's not trying to be, some high-end horror film, that the studios are doing. It's being something that we want. Something that the fans really need to have. And hopefully Terrifier 2 does that.
I get the feeling that it will.
It will.
Yeah. Well, we took everything that we sort of know you guys loved about Terrifier 1, so that's definitely sort of the safety net of Terrifier 2. But it's such a bigger movie on a grander scale. bigger than anything I've ever come close to working on before. That's one of the reasons why it took so long to make. It's remarkably ambitious.
Oh, just like everybody else, blame COVID.
Yeah, no, we tried for a while. Can't even lie. I mean, COVID set us back for about 4 months, I would say. But it took almost 3 years to make the movie. Just super ambitious. But we bring in this whole other element into this movie. I've said before, so I'm just trying to avoid some spoilers, but huge supernatural element in part 2, like huge. So it's almost a character in and of itself in this one. Whereas most killers, when they come back eventually, it's never explored or explained why they're back, what entity brought them back, what power is driving them. Huge element in this story, and there's I grew up loving sword and sorcery type movies like Red Sonja, Beastmaster, movies like that, Conan, of course. And if you've seen the trailer, you see the main heroine in this Valkyrie Halloween costume. So there's a huge sort of fantasy element woven into this too, where it's going to be very fresh. It's sort of unlike anything I've personally seen in a slasher.
That is a good thing.
Yeah.
I like that you're bringing in the supernatural element to sort of explain things.
Yeah.
That is the gaping plot hole that we're always talking about.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. I felt the same way. Yeah. And instead of just tiptoeing around it or whatever, I said, let's just embrace it, sort of unlike anybody else's ever. So we'll see. We'll see if it works. It's
why does Jason keep getting up? Who knows?
Right. So,
I even think Art embraces that whole thing. He's like, wow, cool. I'm a lot more powerful now. So there's a new confidence to him, I think, in this one. He's a little bit more arrogant, too. So it's just like...
As if he wasn't arrogant enough.
I know!
Exactly. Is he a better artist than he was last time?
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Oh, yeah. He's
Might
like,
be a little sloppier.
That's an art in itself, So there you go.
A bit of a transition here, talking supernatural. I hear you have some ghost stories that you might want to share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely had some weird stuff happen in like one of the locations we shot. Actually, 2 of the locations, but the one I'd like to talk about is in Fright Factory there in Philly, where we shot a big chunk of the film.
Are you talking about 1 or 2?
2.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like, they didn't even tell us any of this kind of stuff, so we had no idea. But like, we had, like, in one night especially, we had so many different things happen. And it's like, it started off where our DP is trying to set up a shot, and everybody else is just kind of sitting around and everything, and he just starts yelling at our producer to quit walking in front of the camera. Phil, stop walking in front of the camera. And Phil's like way over in another room just talking to Damien. So I'm like, George, no one's walking in front of the camera. Like, no, someone keeps walking in front of the camera. It's pissing me off because I can't see what I'm doing. It's like, no one. So, I swear, man. So nothing's happening. We're like, no, there's no one there. He's like, okay. And so a little bit later, there's like Lauren and I are about to do a scene, and there's a door that's open behind us that doesn't be open, and they're like, hey guys, go close that door. We're like, okay, so we're getting up to go close it, and the door just closes by itself. We're like, okay, thank you. But the creepiest thing is there's this one room in this giant haunted house that they have their doll room in there, and the way this building is set up, it has all these, it's such a big building, so they have all these different little power grids, and they can turn it on and off. And so they had, the only areas that they had power on were in the areas that we needed for filming in our holding room. So everything else was turned off, and like, they even had the people working there making sure, But so the doll room, no power to this room. There's this one thing in that room of this doll in a swing that like plays music and starts saying, come play with me, that kind of stuff, and it's motion activated. So
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So we're in a total different room. The whole entire everybody is there while we're filming in this room, and we just hear that thing go off in that other part of the play. We're like, no. And it's because there's no power in that room, so that thing somehow turned on and went off, and that was just you don't want to hear that when you're not expecting. So I was like, okay, and we talked to the guy that was working there, and he's like, oh yeah, that sometimes happens. Like we have a lot of activity that happens in that room, especially. That's like the creepiest room in here. I'm like,
oh yeah, that's just
it's great.
Pazuzu in the corner.
Yeah, it just happens because like dolls like that creep me out anyway. So I'm like, oh great. I'm glad I'm not filming in that room.
So, do you have any? I mean, you're a little more skeptical, like the
rest of
the
us.
two paranormal guys here.
So you guys are skeptical, right?
We are. I'm gonna change the word skeptical because I agree with it, but it's kind of a misunderstood word. I'm gonna say more scientific.
Right. But would you say, at this point, has anything convinced you 100% that there is something supernatural out there?
This is going to be a word that most people are not going to relate with. No.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, there's some weird shit, but nothing...
Weird shit.
I've had lots of weird personal experiences that, as of yet, I can't explain.
Right.
But if you want to talk about that 100%, no.
No, not 100%.
Yeah. So, my whole life, listen, I grew up watching horror movies since I'm 3. Cemetery behind my house that I grew up in, same age. I mean, playing with my friends in there all the way up until I was a teenager, maybe even later. Lots of spooky things, but nothing that I couldn't rationalize. There's always a part of me that's like, well, that could be explained. Even in Terrifier 1, the buildings that we filmed in, some of those scenes there, these buildings from the 40s, it's this like old nursing home. Hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of people died in there from the 40s. I mean, it's where they discovered the cure to tuberculosis. And we filmed in these underground tunnels because it's these 4 main buildings, and they would, in the winter when you couldn't transport them, they would bring them underground. That's where we filmed. And everybody who worked there would say they had their ghost stories. They've seen ghosts down there. There were times we were filming and I would be down there, the crew would go home, and I'd have to stay behind and clean up, and I'd hear things, but I've never seen anything remotely supernatural my entire life. All right, so about 5 years ago, I had a dream. All right, so there's 3 important people in this dream. Me, my old neighbor, his name was Butch. He lived in the attached house, 2-family house that I lived in from the time I was 3 years old till about 18. And then the house next to him is my best friend Anthony, same age as me. Me and Anthony are still this close. So I was so close to the Forlans, right? Butch Forlan, that was the family. I mean, they lived in the same house. So like birthdays, block parties, vacations, right? He might as well have been my uncle. That's how close I was to this family. So 18, they moved away, and we were only in touch with them basically through hearing other people who know them. If they followed them on Facebook, maybe we'd hear something here and there. But nothing, no communication, and years went by, maybe like 10 years, I mean, maybe more. And this isn't somebody that I think of regularly whatsoever. So about 5 years ago, I have a dream that I'm in a high school auditorium, packed, and it's me and my friend Anthony. And we go and we just sit down like on the bleachers, and out of the crowd comes Butch Forlan. And he sits down next to us, and he's just like, he looks kind of sad, but he's happy to see us. And he's like, hey guys, how you been? I haven't seen you in so long. I want to know what you're up to and everything like that. And we start talking to him, and we're telling him, and he's just, he's looking like sadder and sadder, but after we talk for a while, he says, all right guys, well, he's like, I gotta go, and it's been great seeing you. And he kind of just like, like rubs my shoulder and walks away and disappears into the crowd. I wake up that morning, like all of us, we just go right into our phone, right? I look in my phone, it's a text message from Anthony saying, dude, Butch Forlan died last night.
Oh, wow.
Look, I got chills every time I tell that story. So that's like the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. That's astronomical. Now listen, you could still explain that. I mean, that's a coincidental dream.
However, that is the most common paranormal ghostly experience, is a death visitation. So
sometimes in that sort of dream, and sometimes I saw grandmother's ghost at the foot of the bed, but in all the different variations, that's a common.
The 3 of us, like Anthony being the one to send me that message, he heard through Facebook. I mean, that's how he knew that. But just all of that happening right after the dream, the 3 of us, I mean, that was wild. So I was like, whew, maybe there is. I mean, the older I get, the more I say, I just don't know. I don't know anything. I mean, we try, and everybody in this world. We try and have a semblance of some sort of order every day, but we don't even know how or why we're here.
Exactly.
And we don't even think about it. We just go on with the motions.
Right.
We go to work.
Well, one of the
whatever,
things
but-
that we say, and I'm paraphrasing one of the masters, Randy, of we don't have absolute 100% proof of it yet, but how cool would it be if we could? And so let's keep looking.
Yeah.
If we don't find it, fine. If we explain a lot of it on the way, even better.
Yeah.
But let's just keep looking, because every case needs to be looked at individually.
Yeah.
And I also think, in addition to the paranormal, that's a lot of what we're doing with horror. We like to think that our lives are well in hand and under control and understandable, but they're not, and sometimes we need Art the Clown to remind us of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't touch people's hats. And take selfies with them without asking permission.
Exactly.
I say horror movies are their temporary control over death or mortality. I mean, that's
Right.
really what it is. And you sort of know that even when you're a child. I mean, subconsciously, you know you're conquering the monster. It's one of the monster. I mean, that's one of the first words like a child actually learns. I mean, or the parent pretends to be a monster. I'm going to come and tickle you or whatever. And
Right.
you go, you put the claws, and you're tense and aggressive, but then you tickle, and then you watch Sesame Street and you have the Cookie Monster. So automatically, a child knows what a monster is.
Well, and somebody was relating to that once, saying that the theater is the one place that you can go be absolutely terrified. You're in the dark, you're alone, but you still know you're safe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Unless Art the Clown's around, then who knows?
We like exposing ourselves to it. We like to sort of just dance with death. We like to get a sense of it because we know it's coming, and it's so shocking and profound.
Exactly.
That we hope that it would comfort us if we keep exposing ourselves to it.
Right.
I don't know if it ever will, but if it does, but I think that's what we're trying to do on some level.
Absolutely. Now I'm changing course here again. What other films have you played with over the years?
I made one other film before. It was my 2 short films, and then those were incorporated into All Hallows Eve. And then I made a Frankenstein versus the Mummy movie that I really can't recommend anybody goes to see that. But, I learned, very important though, I learned a lot of mistakes making that movie.
So where do we find?
So for all of us who want to watch it now,
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see like what the hell's going on with my body of work, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, again, that was something where that's not my story, not my idea, not something I wanted to ever make. But I mean, at the time, I was delivering flowers for a living and just freelancing as a makeup artist whenever I could to make money. And the guy who produced All Hallows Eve said, "Hey, I'm making this found footage Frankenstein versus the Mummy movie." A found footage Frankenstein versus the Mummy movie. I still can't fathom that.
Was it found in the sarcophagus or something like that?
Like Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
And then, and he said, "Do you want to do the makeup effects on it?" And I said, "Sure." And I said, "Did you got anybody?" I mean, like, he's like, "Yeah, we're looking for a director." I said, "What the hell? How do you make that into a movie?" He had like a treatment for it. And I said, "Listen, I'd be interested in directing it, but I do not like the found footage genre. I mean, I like the Blair Witch Project, but it's not something I'd like to do myself." So I said, "If you give me the same budget and I could quickly write a script that's more of a traditional narrative, would you let me direct it and make it myself?" And he agreed to it graciously. So it was just not the smartest thing. And I mean, people wanted to just see Frankenstein versus the Mummy just going at it, but it was such a low budget movie. It was like $60,000. And I loved the novel Frankenstein, and I tried to put as much of that into it. So it just didn't. It's not Frankenstein. I mean, I don't think Frankenstein versus the Mummy is ever going to work, honestly.
I think it's funny the budget for that was higher than the budget for Terrifier.
Yeah, it was.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a question I had. Comparatively speaking, between 1 and 2, how was budget?
So the first budget was, we started with $35,000, and by the time we were in post-production, it was about $50,000. And then part 2, we got like $220,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which is still a remarkably low budget. It's
Well, I was going to say...
for those who don't know, that's nothing.
nothing.
yeah, it's nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean, in most major films, that's less than
catering.
one person.
Yeah, well, that's like literally the catering.
Yeah.
budget. Probably more. Yeah.
I don't know. I've done some reality TV. They're catering, M&Ms in a bucket.
Have fun. Have a nice.
Yeah, so again, that's one of the reasons why. Super ambitious movie. I didn't think about, when I write something, I don't really think about budget. I just write what I want to see, and then you slowly come off of that big cloud you're living in. But we just did not want to compromise anything in that script, so we did whatever we could do to make it work. And a lot of what we had to do was just take a lot more time because there were so many effects. Me and my producer Phil were doing all the effects, so we would just have to sometimes go up to a scene that was going to require a lot of effects, shoot all that, and then take 2 weeks off and literally build them to go back and shoot. I mean, that takes a toll. I mean, it was like that.
Well, and we were listening to, I believe it was Monique Dupree that was talking about it, and the questions to her and Lloyd Kaufman were, what have you learned in the filmmaking industry? What can you suggest to people? And one of the things they said was, don't try and take on all the tasks. Don't be the director. Don't star in it. Don't do this. And you're doing such an amazing job of it that I'd say that that's not always the case.
No,
and it saves money too.
Sure. Well, that's one of the things. I could save so much money. I don't want to do the special effects, honestly. Like, I love doing it, but I'd rather direct if I could. But to give you an idea, I was able to speak to someone who runs, I won't mention any names, amazing person, but runs like one of the biggest Hollywood makeup studios. And I had a scene in Terrifier, and I was trying to get another crew to come in and take like 40% of the burden off my shoulders because it was so much, I really couldn't do it. But I got to talk to this guy, and I asked him how much would it take to do a full body suit for something that I can't explain what it was. And he said for that one suit, it would cost about $150,000.
Ouch.
And all he could do was sculpt the face from scratch, and the body would have to be from parts that they already had molded from other movies. To give you an idea, $150,000. So that's half of our budget, if not more of our budget, for one thing.
I'm in the wrong business because that's not, it's nothing against them, but that's not a lot of, that's not $150,000 worth of work.
No. I mean, it's going to, of materials for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, not even close.
I mean, if you've got a business and you've got the overhead of the people and the staff and the building and the name and
So going off of that, we probably have $5 million worth of special effects in Terrifier 2 that I did for nothing, for free. Only the cost of materials, but that's how we were able to do it. I don't pay myself as an editor, as anything. So that's that's how we make these things happen. You got to do whatever you have to do to make it work.
At the cost of your sanity.
Yeah, but who cares about
sanity is overrated.
It's been gone for a long time.
Something we've never had the opportunity to do on this podcast before without a live audience is maybe we should take a couple of questions from the audience.
I think that's a fine idea.
That sounds cool.
Does anybody have a question? I'm probably loading myself. Nobody's going to raise their hand. Let me rephrase that. So, who's got a question that we can ask these guys?
There you go.
Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys. Seriously.
You guys are at the vanguard of what I think would be like the extremity in American cinema. You guys present one of the most striking scenes in Terrifier that I think anybody's ever seen. I think it is a watershed moment. You can mention it, people will just go, yeah, I'm out. You guys, tell me about, I'm curious about, how did this come about? What was comfortable for you? What was the intention? And what does it afford you now that you're kind of encompassing that, I guess, mission statement of
Wait, are you talking about the hacksaw scene in particular?
I think I'm talking about
where?
That's all anybody talks about, really.
The world's worst gynecology exam.
Well, that's what it was. Again, $30,000 movie. I said, what are we going to do? How do we compete with Hollywood? What are we going to show people that they can't get? What's going to make this movie stand out? There's so much competition out there. So I said, being a special makeup effects artist and loving graphic violence, I mean, I love Tom Savini's my hero. So I said, we're going to try and show the fans something that at least I haven't seen before in a slasher film, and I've seen a lot. So I did some research on medieval torture methods, and I came across that. And I said, that sounds absolutely insane, and I've never seen that in a movie, so let's try and do that. And not only let's try and do that, but let's show every piece of it, where other movies might do it, but then shy away, or you'd only see a little, maybe like the hacksaw going in the stomach for a quick second, and that's it. But I wanted to show everything. And everybody who read the script, I mean, that was the scene. They said, "Whoa, that's the showstopper. How are you going to do that?"
I even asked him, because like I read that in the script. I thought that was just for our own benefit to know what's supposed to be happening. And he's like, "Oh no, we're going to show that." I'm like, "Holy crap! Okay, yeah."
So are you taking the next step and going to the Bloody Eagle?
Oh yeah, I've been told that already, but that's been done now, right?
Yeah, they did that in Midsummer.
They did that Midsummer. That's true. But they did it very lightly, and I don't think people knew what it was.
You didn't see how it happened.
You saw the aftermath, right? Yeah. I mean, but yeah, I mean, so, and we say all the time, MVP to Catherine Corcoran, who played Dawn, because what you see is really happening. There's no trickery. She's really hanging upside down by her ankles in that disgusting, freezing cold, dingy environment. My cameraman built that frame for her to hang from the night before. We didn't know if it was going to work, if it was going to hold her. It was horrifying. And she was so game for it, though. And when we met for the first time, after I gave her the part, and we met to talk about it, and she just said, "If we're going to do this, this has to be the coolest thing anybody's ever seen. So like, I'm gonna go all in. I want you to go." And I said, "Well, that's where I'm coming from. So this sounds amazing." And
maybe you could give us some insight into how nasty was that? How long was she hanging there to shoot that scene?
Yeah. I would say altogether that probably took maybe like 4 hours worth of shooting with her, but she could only hang upside down for like 40 seconds at a time.
Yeah, pass out.
Yeah, and
stressful.
The next day she actually got sick. It was like something, her equilibrium was off or something. She was,
her eardrum got moved
something,
out of place or something like that. Yeah.
And there's just things you can't anticipate happening, like, you know, the blood come, because there's some shots where she's in the middle of getting killed where I tried to use as much of the actress as possible before we cut away to the dummies and everything.
Right.
So we had like a prop hacksaw in her chest with a big gash, and we were pumping blood, and it's going up in her nose because she's upside down. Just things you're just not. There's so many variables, but relatively, we got through it, and she was amazing. But it was a very intense day on set. If I can say something really cool about this guy for a second, there is the scene where he dresses up as the woman, right? That's pretty.
That's great.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry you had to see my ass.
This is.
Sorry.
Keep in mind, like, what a trooper this guy is. This is his first movie, really, right? Was this like your first movie?
It was,
right?
I've just been extras before. That's about it.
So in the script, I had Art wearing the woman, but over his costume, right? I never had him get out of his costume. And then maybe like a couple of weeks before we were shooting it, I called him up and I said, "Dave, I'm thinking about this, and he would look so much creepier if you were totally naked and you were wearing this woman, because then with all the blood and the scalp, it's like you're gonna transform into a woman. It's gonna look really insane." And I was like, "Would you be willing to do this?" And like, without even like missing a beat, he's like, "Yeah, why not?" You know? I was like, "Yeah, sure, okay."
Oh, so I looked at it like, because like Catherine's really exposing herself in such a vulnerable state for that scene. I'm like, if Catherine can do what she's doing for this scene, then I will show my butt. Plus it's so freaky. But it's so freaky, and that's the thing. Is like that whole concept that he is wearing someone's flayed skin. And a lot of people don't notice it. It's not just the scalp and the tatas. It's also the vajayjay.
Yeah, it is.
Which led to probably one of the funnier moments on set, too, because he calls me up that morning.
Oh, boy.
He's like, "Dave, it's like, bring a cock sock with you to set today." And I'm like, "A condom?" It's like, no. Okay, so there's something to cover your junk. And I'm like, okay. So I brought a tube sock. And I had to go in the room by myself to get myself ready and stuff like this. And I also let you know this is basically Samantha Scaffidi's first real day working with me on set. So
that's how she met him for the first time.
Yeah. And I come out and I had to glue this prosthetic to me, and I had my white tube sock and everything, and I come out and I'm like, "Hello," and they're like, "Oh no!"
It's like hitting the floor. I'm like, "Dave, we can't show that.
Yeah,
we don't have a VFX budget to erase that song."
I'm like, "I'm sorry, it's the way I was born, ladies." But yeah, so that's like the one bit of the movie where there's a little bit of CG.
Yeah, I did actually have to erase some of it.
Yeah, that was funny.
But I mean, the thing is, the point is that it wasn't Terrifier then. You know what I mean? It's like it's like we're just making this weird indie low budget horror movie that people are just like coming, and it's like you're doing such an extreme thing. And while we were filming that, people were just like, "What the fuck are we making?" You know, like this is weird. What are we doing
Our
here?
poor crew.
Yeah.
That next morning, they're all just kind of like. Yeah, like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I know that's not what you wanted to see all night.
Yeah, but he was. I mean, it was cool to have, actors like Catherine and Dave who were just they were all amazing.
That was actually that's one of my favorite memories with Catherine is like right after doing that we're on the Staten Island ferry basically 7 o'clock in the morning while everybody's going
after
to work.
the hacksaw, right?
Yeah, we're both still. We didn't get all the blood off of us, so we're just kind of just sitting there, and we look like we had just gotten out of a war.
We're questioning every decision in their lives, like what led to this moment.
What did we just film? And you just see people giving us a wide berth on the Staten Island ferry, just like, okay, they've had a day.
So did you ever just screw with people by staying in costume before he became so well known and just wander the streets and scare the bejesus out of people?
The cops.
Yeah. There was the one night where when we were filming Jenna Cannell's death as Tara, where she gets shot in the face and everything. They were filming her stuff, and I was waiting in the holding room, and I already had all my makeup and blood on and stuff like that. It's like maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning.
And we filmed in one of the worst areas, like crime areas in New Jersey.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night, firing off a blank gun.
Yeah.
So, without permission.
Yeah. And
what permits?
Yeah. But I hear this like just very Jerry Springer-ish argument happening on the street outside of these two women, and I'm like, well, I'm bored. I'm gonna go watch this, and I'm just sitting in the window just watching. I forgot how I looked. Because I would just get so used to wearing the makeup, I just would forget how I looked. And one of them looks up and sees me. I'm like, hi. And like both of them just turn around and look at me, and their eyes bog out. Screaming, running off, and I'm like, oh shit. I didn't think I was like, okay, well that was funny. About 15 minutes later, Damien and our producers and all of them are coming in. They're kind of just like tittering and so like, and they're like, hey Dave, we got someone out here that wants to meet you. And I'm like, cool, because at the same time, like our producer had just been working with something with Tom Sizemore, I think, and they had said possibly Tom Sizemore might come visit sets. I'm like, oh my god, is it Tom Sizemore? Is he here? And I'm like, okay, cool. They're like, well, don't come out. We want to surprise this person. So don't come out until we tell you. And there's a big, huge roll-up garage door there. And I'm like waiting on the other side. I'm like, you're going to meet Tom Sizemore. And they're like, Dave, come out. So I roll it up. I come up. And I see like 15... of like New Jersey's finest. Full-on riot gear.
Yeah, it's like the SWAT. And
my butt just goes... I'm like, uh-oh. And I'm like, oh, this is where I'm gonna die. And I'm one of these, like, when I get in those kind of situations, I try to diffuse it, I try to add humor into it, and I just squeak out this little, what's up, guys? And there's still just silence for like 10 seconds, which seemed like an eternity. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to die today. I'm going to die. And then they all just start, bah! Yeah, you better be glad you did not come out here first, because we would have shot you on sight. and they're all like wanting their pictures with me. But there's this one cop that is afraid of clowns, like definitely afraid of clowns. And they're like, hey, Tony, come over here, Tony, come over here, get you a picture with what's your name again? Arthur, what? Okay, get you a picture with him. And he's like, no. And I'm like, dude, you're fine. You've got a rocket launcher on you. You're gonna be fine. Like, nah, I can't. So then we had to tell him, oh yeah, we're gonna be shooting some blanks and stuff tonight. It's like, oh, do you need a body?
Oh,
we got one down at the station right now. I still don't know if they were serious or not. It was just like, because that area we were in.
You didn't take them up on that to find out?
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Next time they ask, say
They always
yes.
say, yeah.
But this is a thing that has happened. This is a consistent thing now happening with me in movies. Because we're doing part 2, and there's a scene where I'm walking inside of a building and I'm covered in blood, and it's in New Jersey again, and people are on their way to work. And then we're shooting, and all of a sudden, cop car passes by again, passes by again, and then pulls up a light. I'm like, oh, and Damien's like, Dave, you gotta mess with the cops. Not this time. And she comes in, she's like, so I got a report that there was like a clown coming in here covered in blood.
Clown.
And I'm like, hi, it's me. Please don't kill me. She's like, oh yeah, I see what we were called. And then when we're filming Stream, we were filming in this hotel for about a month or so, and it's in the middle of January during COVID, so we basically had the run of the place to ourselves. And there were a few other guests there, and we just assumed that they would tell the other guests, hey, they're shooting a horror film here. And there's this scene where I'm stalking.
It's so much funnier if they don't tell the guests.
That's true.
You know, this event, for instance, it's really funny to watch people's reactions if they
I
didn't
agree.
know what was happening, and then Art the Clown shows up.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's kind of what happened, because there's a scene where I'm stalking a victim around the hotel and stuff like that, and they put creepy lights up and everything, and I'm covered in blood and down the hallway, and look, do it again. Do it again. And one time we just hear this woman just opens the door.
Whatever you're doing is very effective. we are Second Amendmenters, and you almost got shot.
And she had taken a video through the peephole.
Oh, jeez.
And you see me, and I'm like, oh god, that is freaky. Oh my god, thank god I didn't stop and look at the door or something like that. I would have gotten shot.
Did she really have a gun?
She really had a gun.
She really had a gun.
She really had a gun. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this has got to stop happening to me.
So do I, but I want to meet the clown, not shoot him.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is crazy. So, yeah, that's...
Well, as much as I hate to say this, we're hitting the top of the hour. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's been
It's
an
been a
honor.
blast.
Thank you guys. Seriously, this is
And
very fun.
Looking forward to seeing the rest of the stuff you're doing here at the con, and your next films and other stuff that you will be doing. But I would say who our guest is next time, but does it really count anymore?
We never
It
know
doesn't
anyway.
matter. Well, yeah, we never
Is it
know.
Tom Sizemore?
Oh, yeah. I'll tell him you recommended him. So, yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for coming on, and it was great.
Thank you guys. This was a blast.
Any final words for everybody?
Just, I guess, Terrifier 2, October 6th. Please try and see it in theaters, because it's going to be, I promise you, it's going to be really fun to see with an audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
And big thank you to everybody that's been supporting us, because this is a film that was made possible because of you guys. It is the fans that made this totally possible. So this is a fan-made film by fans for fans.
He just used our tagline.
There it is.
Pretty damn close, yeah.
Do I have to pay royalties?
Exactly.
Sign my DVD after we're done.
That's one of our taglines. A podcast for horror fans by horror fans. So there you go.
And there they are.
Exactly, and they're all with us tonight. So and thank you to the crowd.
Yeah.
Thank you, yes.
And in that note, we will stop this, and we'll talk to you guys at that next episode next week.
Next week.